My name is Joe Eminger. Some of you look familiar, so I know some of you have been to these presentations in the past, and some of it is just a regurgitation of what you've heard in the past, perhaps. PowerPoint presentation will probably take about 40 minutes or so. I would ask that you leave the questions till the end. Sometimes you can't wait till the end. That's fine. I'm not going to say you can't ask the question, but if you can, because you're afraid you might forget about it, you can ask it at any time. But then there's going to be a question and answer period when we're all done, and we'll stay as long as you want us to stay. Well, we're not rushing anybody out. And beginning of the presentation is going to talk about kind of what we've been doing and what assessment is and what it isn't. And then towards the end of the presentation, you're going to get what's going to happen in a couple of weeks and what you're going to get in the mail and what you do from that point forward. Okay, we've already, and I don't know if this individual is in the room tonight, our office has already received a call scheduling an informal hearing. That's a little, nobody knows what their assessment's going to be. That person's assessment could be going down for all of them. But maybe they know that they're under-assessed, and maybe they just figure that it's going to be going up. So we told that individual politely that just wait a couple weeks and you can wait to get your number. Okay, come on, Mike. Okay. Page down. Page down. Okay. Property tax, okay, hopefully, a lot of this information you already know, okay, it's administered locally. All revenues go to support local services. Town government is all about, 90% of it is about services. Much different than state government and federal government. It's all about services. And your property value, your property tax, okay, your value is based on an ad valorem, ad value, Latin for ad value. The assessors in every town and village and city in New York State have to assess your property at market value every year. And so they have to go out whether you're at 100% or if you're at 50%. Theoretically, it's the market value of your property. And we're going to get into how equalization rates equate to that market value. Okay, and it's a broad tax. Everybody pays property tax, unless you're a not-for-profit. Okay, who in this room pays too much tax? Okay, I got both my hands up. We all pay too much tax, or we think we pay too much tax. Okay, but we live in America. Okay, part of living in America, you have to pay your tax. What this project is about is making sure that you only pay your fair portion of your tax. Everybody's going to pay a tax. We don't want you to pay too much, and we don't want to see people who are not paying enough. So the secret, what this project is supposed to do is bring people into the middle, so everybody's paying their fair share. That's fair and equitable assessments. It's the whole idea about doing it. Okay, now we're going to talk about budgets and levies. Okay, the difference. Okay, the budget is what your local municipality has to spend for the year. Okay, a levy is what they need to raise in tax. So your budget is going to include items such as revenues from services that they provide, services from fees that they collect. Okay, so you take the total that is needed to run the government, to run the town, less what the revenue is. And the bottom line is what the levy, or what the amount that has to be raised by taxes. Okay, go on. Okay, although assessments play an integral part of the tax calculation, there's no getting around that, the tax levy is the controlling factor, the tax levy in the amount of your tax bill. Most of you, I'm assuming, have not seen your tax bill or your assessment raised since the last reassessment in 2013, unless you put an improvement on your property or built a new home, on a vacant piece of land. But your taxes have probably gone up slightly. Okay, your assessment has stayed the same, but I'm looking out at my old grade school buddy over here. I just noticed him in the audience, and he threw me for a loop, Peter. I'm sorry. That's all right. No telling stories about grade school. All right, okay. But your assessment has stayed the same. The reason it's gone up, why your taxes has gone up, is that the amount of money the government has had to raise to keep your services has gone up. So your assessment stayed the same, but the levy increased slightly, and that's why your taxes have gone up since 2013, even though your assessment has stayed the same. Okay? What's the job of an assessor? Okay, fair assessments by determining the market value of each property. That's what I talked about earlier. Keep an inventory of all properties. How many bedrooms you have? Is the square footage correct? Helping taxpayers understand assessments, obviously, a very big portion of their job, bigger than anybody probably in this room realizes, and outside the room as well, is process exemptions. Exemption work is probably 50% of an assessment department's job now. Everybody just thinks assessment is evaluation. Assessor's job is valuation. Furthest thing from it. Exemptions take up a big amount of time, and those include the STAR, the senior citizens, veterans, and Enhanced STAR. Okay, and then maintaining all those changes related to the assessment role, utilizing computerized software, the state program called RPS, Real Property System, and they're in version 4 now. New York State law, Real Property Tax Law 305. All property in each assessing unit shall be assessed at a uniform percentage of value. That percentage of value can be 100% or it can be 1%. They don't dictate what percent it has to be at. There's a town down on Long Island, their equalization rate is less than 1%. Hard to fathom. They haven't had a reassessment in like 70, 80 years. Okay, the last time you went through a reassessment project in 2013, your equalization rate was 47%, because it hadn't been done since 1986, 87. Okay, what happens, I might be jumping ahead here, what happens when you don't do an update or a reassessment project is you get inequities in the roll. That's what I started my talk about tonight. You get people who are paying not enough tax because they're way underassessed, and you have people who are paying too much tax because they're way overassessed. And that happens because people don't understand, how do you get overassessed? Don't you think people realize it? It happens because people don't understand the equalization rate process, which we're going to get into a little bit. People think let's go back to 2013, your equalization rate was 47, let's call it 50%. People would see their assessment at $50,000, and they would say, geez, I bought this property for $75,000. I'm underassessed. They got me assessed at $50,000. Well, no, they actually had you assessed at $100,000, so you're overassessed. And that went on year after year after year. And the bad thing about that situation is you can't go back to get refunds. It happens quite often. People will find out they've been overassessed for 5, 6, 7 years, and they'll come to the assessor, they'll come to me, and they'll say, what can we do to get our money back? He said, nothing you can do. All we can do is help you with going forward. Okay? Okay. Equalization rates. Okay, when you're at 100%, you get the full STAR exemption, the full school tax, okay, exemption. It's not based on a percentage. It's going to be on the full value. Veterans get their full exemption, so there's nothing lost there. And most importantly, you're going to realize, like you have for the last 3-4 years, you're going to realize that your assessed value is your market value. Okay, there's going to be no playing games with the numbers. Okay, equity assessments. Okay, properties are assessed at a uniform percentage of value. That's what I got to do. They don't tell you. The state doesn't tell you what uniform percentage that is. But when you do this project, you're at 100%. Properties with similar values pay similar taxes. You don't want your two properties, and they pay their fair share. Keep going. But, as I said earlier, okay, equity is the goal of the project. Okay, you want everybody assessed equitably. Okay, when the assessment equity exists, it ensures that the tax burden is shared equally and fairly amongst all the taxpayers. So everybody gets to share, and nobody likes to pay taxes, but everybody shares the pain equally. Okay, equity versus inequity. I already talked about this already. Okay, about some neighbors pay too much, some neighbors don't pay too little. Here's an example. okay, in 2013, both these homes, they're not on Grand Island. Well, let's just say they're both on Grand Island when the last time the assessment was done. They're both at $100,000 full value and market value. They're assessed for $100,000. Next slide. Now it's 2016, okay, the full value of Mrs. Smith's property is $300,000. The value of Mrs. Jones' property, for whatever reason, went down to $150,000. Maybe the inside of the property, got destroyed or something. The assessed value, whoop, we're losing it here. The assessed value is $100,000. Assessed value for Mrs. Jones' property is $100,000. Mrs. Jones is way over assessed. Mrs. Jones is subsidizing Mrs. Smith's property. Mrs. Smith's property is way under assessed. Okay, $300,000 versus $100,000. So you got both things going on here. So their property went down, this one went up, and that's a bad situation. Okay, that's what this project is going to get rid of, if it's out there. Go on. This slide, it should be the next 3 slides. It should be, keep going. Okay, that's the top of the first slide. Okay, what's going to happen? Okay, on your slide. Okay, 3 things can happen with your new assessment that's going to come out. Okay, your assessment could increase. Your assessment goes up, but your tax bill could actually go down. Okay, and how does that happen? Okay, it happens when here you got, and here it is. Okay, you got your assessment went from 100 to 105,000. The taxable value of the town, went up from 50,000 to 50 million to 54 million. This is not going down. This is just an example. The tax levy was both years was at $1,500,000. So your tax rate $30 a thousand in last year and this year, because you take the total taxable assessment. You take the tax levy into the total taxable assessment. You get $30 a thousand. Your property tax bill is $3,000 last year, and this year your property bill went down a whole $83, but it did go down, even though your assessment went up 5%. The next thing that can happen, next slide, is your assessment could increase and your tax bill can stay the same. And the long and short of it is, your assessment went up 5%, but the total taxable value of the town went up as well, but the tax levy was increased less than 5%, 2.83, and they kind of balanced off against each other. So you're still paying the $3,000 taxes, even though your assessment went up, your tax bill could stay the same. And the third example is the example you don't want. Nobody wants to see this. Your assessment could decrease, and your tax bill could increase. Okay, that's the worst of all situations. Your assessment went down, your total taxable value of the town though went down, and the tax levy, the amount that the school district, or this is the town, raised taxes actually went up. So the total taxable value of the town went down, the tax levy went up, and that's the worst situation for taxpayers, because that means higher taxes all over the place for everybody. Taxes went from $3,000 to $3,085. Not a big hit, but those are the 3 examples. And those will happen. I'm fairly confident to say each one of those examples will happen this year to somebody in town. One of them. One of those examples will happen. Okay, so remember, property taxes are based on your market value. And what is market value? It's a willing seller and a willing buyer without the stress. Okay? When we do our analysis, when we went out into the field and we gathered all the sales, what we call valid sales. What's a valid sale? A valid sale is when we go out and we determine, we get all the MLS sales, multiple listing service sales, and we don't, and if it's a foreclosure sale, we don't consider those. If it is a sale, an estate sale, may or may not be a market level transaction. Okay, yes, sir.
If you're saying fair market value, okay, and it's foreclosed on and it sells for $100,000, okay, you just said that's the fair market value. Whatever a person pays for it. I mean, I don't see how, if it's a distressed property, that you're saying fair market value is what it's worth.
No, market value. Definition of market value: willing buyer and willing seller. Okay, that guy who went into foreclosure, he's not a willing seller. He had to sell the property. The bank came in and took it.
Yeah, but they usually go pretty darn close to market value.
Yes,
I mean,
sometimes.
there's a distressed property, he's got problems with it, so it's costing you money to repair it and bring it up to code and everything else, so.
Right, the bank usually takes it back for a sizable amount more
But
than what was
distress,
owed on the market.
distress doesn't mean it's in foreclosure.
That is a,
It doesn't. That's just one example.
Because people
That's
can
just
just
one
let their
example.
property
There are
go.
different things
and
of,
sometimes
that
it
can be
does.
distressed.
Right. And that doesn't mean they're in foreclosure, they just chose to sell it rather than fix it up. And that, they put it on the market, they played the market and
That's
got what it was
correct. They
worth.
could be heading for foreclosure. They could, they got financial difficulties. They don't want to take care of they're elderly maybe. They can't afford the upkeep of the home. Here's the classic example, okay, of an estate sale. Estate sales may or may not be made. Okay, I was the executor of my mother's estate when she passed away after my father did, and the state of New York will tell the assessors that you do not consider an estate sale a valid sale. I disagree with that. And the example is what I'm going to tell you. When I put the house on the market, my mother's house on the market, okay, I had 2 older brothers and a younger sister who lived out of town, so I got stuck, for lack of a better word, taking care of the property. Okay, I can guarantee you, my brothers and my sister were not going to take less than market value for that property. I wasn't going to take less than market value for the property. We listed with a realtor. It was on the market for 6 or 7 months, and we ended up selling it. And it was a market level. It was, in my opinion, it was a market level transaction. It was exposed to the open market for a reasonable period of time, and that was it. In the town of Tonawanda, where I live, in the assessor's records, that sale is listed as not valid. Sale was 20 years ago. Okay, and it's because the seller in that case was the estate of Gloria Eminger. It wasn't Joseph Eminger. It was the estate sold to her, so they considered that not a valid sale.
So what happened to the assessment?
The assessment stayed the same. The assessment stayed the same.
And so it sold above the market then? I'm trying to understand, from when your mother owned it to the new owner, did the assessment stay the same?
No, you can't change assessments based on when a property sells. That's called the welcome stranger law. Okay, welcome stranger law is, you come into a town from California, let's say, and you're not used to they're used to paying $300,000 for a 1,000-foot, bungalow or whatever, and they'll pay $300,000, while the rest of the market will say it's only worth $150,000, and the assessor would say, well, that's what he paid for. That's market level, market sale, $300,000. The court's saying, can't do that. You gotta have a reassessment project to do it. So everybody gets treated fairly at the same time.
Don't they raise the assessment based on another house that's similar to yours?
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about now. We went out and we got all the valid sales in Grand Island. Okay, for the last 3-4 years, since the time of the last project. Okay, and we compared your property to the comparable sales that transpired in that time frame. And we went out and we drove around the town and we looked at those properties to see if there's 5 sales. Each of your home has 5 sales that it's being compared to. All your homes will be compared to similar style homes for the most part. Okay, if you have a Cape Cod style home, you'll be compared to a Cape Cod style home in your neighborhood. How many neighborhoods, right? 10. There are 10 neighborhoods on Grand Island that comprise the island. Okay, your home is going to be compared to homes in your neighborhood. Okay, for the most part. Sometimes there are not enough sales of certain style homes, like maybe raised ranches or a split level, and you got to go outside a neighborhood every once in a while. That's not the norm, though. Not the norm. So we compare to similar. If you have a colonial, a newer colonial, it's going to be compared to newer colonials in your neighborhood. If you have waterfront property, okay. When I said that, not waterfront view, not water view. If you have waterfront property, because everybody knows there's a difference. You're going to be compared to waterfront properties. If you have water view, you're going to be compared to properties that have water view.
What is it, 5 houses around?
I'm sorry?
How many houses do they look at around that town?
How many? All the sales.
No.
How many
You
sales
can't say
were?
that, because if you're gonna have a 4,000 square foot house, and I'm living in a 2,000 square foot house, you have to compare it to 2,000 square foot home. How many homes in that 2,000 square foot range are you looking at?
The model you're looking, I can't tell you
Could be
exactly.
from the north side or the south side.
No, it's gonna be in your neighborhood.
All right, that could be maybe 5 homes.
It could be, but it usually is not. Usually a lot more, a lot more.
And if those homes haven't been sold in 5 or 10
He's
years,
looking at sales.
Looking at sales, we're not looking at comparable assessments here.
How many houses were sold on Grand Island over the years that
We
you're
average
talking?
500 a year.
So you're,
500 years.
we're looking at 2,000 sales that we looked at.
what was the rate of people's taxes that actually went down since 2013? Do you know the percent?
We had what, John, we had about 6,000 were between down by 10%.
Oh,
to up
is that what he's
10%.
asking for?
I think
Yeah.
that's what you're asking.
Okay.
Only 10% of the homes in 2013 actually had their taxes lowered.
Well, he's talking about 2013.
In 2013,
Yeah.
in 2013, we had approximately 50% no change.
Right?
We had, I want to say 26% went up, 24% went down. If I remember those numbers correctly.
And this year, the numbers are more like,
They're tighter.
what's that? Yeah,
We
sorry.
had
Seven, we had,
a
five.
range between down by 10% to 10% above was around 6,000, as I believe. is
Of
what
the
the-
7,500
Of-
parcels, the
yes.
7,500 residential improved parcels.
Yes,
So 6,000 of the 7,500 parcels are either gonna go from down 10% to up 10%. Okay? The market value, the market for real estate is, you know, if you've been following the market over the last 3-4 years, the market has been very good over the last 3-4 years. It's been going up 3-4, 5%, in areas. And just because you're, again, getting back to the question, just because your assessment's going up does not mean that your taxes are going up. That you gotta, that's really a point that you gotta stress when you're going up. Keep going. Okay, keep going. They can read about that. I want to get to the nuts and bolts of what we got to do. Okay, we talked about how your market value is determined. Okay, we go out and look at your property, we compare it to similar style homes. Okay, we come back, we go do a field review again, and we make adjustments to our model, and we arrive at an indication of market value. And that's where we stand right now. That's kind of the play, as of this point in time, that's kind of where we are for the most part. We're at that point. Go on. Okay, what are factors that derive market value? The old saying, location, location, location. Your home on the interior of the island is not going to be compared to a home on the waterfront. Okay? Some locations are more desirable, some are less desirable. Some locations on the island appreciate at a different rate or depreciate at a different rate than other places on the island. And that's why you got to stick to neighborhoods, because those neighborhoods are appreciating or depreciating at a different rate. Okay, what else can drive your market value? Economic influences. Okay, we haven't had too much, they've been positive. Home style. You want to make sure that your inventory on your property is correct, that the town has. You can get that online. You want to make sure that your square footage is correct. You want to make sure, to Pete's, how many bedrooms you have, right? All right, how many bathrooms? We don't adjust for bedrooms though. Okay, we adjust for a lot of things. We adjust basement versus not having a basement. Style home, obviously, square footage is huge. If you have a garage, not having a garage. Bathrooms, bad number of bathrooms. Above grade, we don't care if you have a bathroom below grade unless it's a split level or a raised ranch house. If you have a cape or a colonial, we don't care if you have a bath. Bedroom count, we don't count. We don't adjust for that. And why? Because a lot of ranches and a lot of Cape Cods over the years have converted one of their bedrooms into a dining room perhaps, or expanded their kitchen. So we've included that adjustment kind of in our square footage adjustment. What is the square footage of your home? Okay, the square footage is based on exterior measurements of your home, not interior. So it includes all your hallways, all other. It does not include your garage. If you have an attached garage, that's not counted as your square footage living area, your SFLA, as we call Well, okay? Go on. Get the whole page. Okay, changes in property values, we've gone through, through these things, different types of property, different locations. Okay, without a systematic analysis, the equity may diminish, we talked about that. And the loss of assessment equity results in some people paying more than their fair share. So the question you have to ask yourself, okay, when you get that notice in a few weeks, okay, is the market value estimate for your property a reasonable representation of what you could sell your house for? Is it reasonable? If it is, you don't have to do anything. If it isn't, that's what we're going to talk about next. Here's the schedule, okay? Impact notices are going to be mailed out to the taxpayer. That's not right, not
They're
by
going
Tuesday.
out on Monday.
They're going out on Monday, early, yeah, they're going out on the 29th. So that's 5/3/1. So then you're going to start getting your notices next Tuesday, Wednesday. You'll have it. Okay? The informal hearings will start in the middle of the month. What's the informal hearing? That's the one-on-one conversation that you're going to call and make an appointment for. We're going to get to that. With a member of my company, myself or somebody from my firm. Maybe perhaps Mike will be there as well. It's a very informal process. If you went to it 3-4 years ago, you know it's nothing to be nervous about. You just come in and you talk about your property. You should bring pictures of your home. We didn't get in on the inside of your home for most of you. We didn't do a lot of interior inspections this year.
You weren't invited.
Well, that's right, but that's, this is still America. It's not Nazi Germany where we're gonna, go into your home and look at things. So we want you to come in and tell us about your home. Bring pictures, okay? Then you're gonna get those edited by April 30th or around May 1st, or before May 1st, around there, you're gonna get the notification of what that informal hearing told you. And it's either gonna say, we agree with you 100%, we're gonna lower it, because you're gonna provide us with a number that you think it's worth. We're going to lower it to your number. We're going to disagree with you 100%. We're going to keep it at what the preliminary assessment is. Or we're going to say maybe somewhere in between, to bring it down. We will never, and I can say that confidently here, okay, we will never raise your assessment based on the informal hearing. So don't be afraid of telling us something that's going to raise your value. That's not going to happen. We want to encourage people to give us good information on their homes because we want everybody to treat it fair and equitably. The only way you do that is we got to be honest with you, you've got to be honest with us. Okay? So your next step, let's say you got nothing from when you're meeting at the informal, okay? You go to grievance day, which is on Tuesday, May 24th. Okay, that's a more formal process. Is it 5-member board? It's a 5-member board. It can be 3 to 5 members. It's a 5-member board here of your residents. It's your fellow residents. We're out of the project at that point. My firm is out of the project. You meet. It's a formal process. It doesn't cost you any money. You got to fill out a 4-page form. The state requires that, not the town. The state requires a real property form 524. Okay, they're going to be available online, and they'll be at the assessor's office if you need them. Okay, they can be a little confusing. If you have questions, there's going to be a number for you. You can call me, you can call Judy, and we'll help you fill it out. We're also going to have informational centers at the library that you can do it there.
The library, when I told them the library's closed those nights, we have to pick other areas, other places.
Okay,
It's still
all
the
right,
same
so
days.
we'll have to. Okay. So you go to grievance day. And let's say, just for example here, let's say that the Board of Assessment Review, your fellow citizens, after listening to your story and looking what the sales are going for your neighbor, they give you nothing. Okay? So you still got another course of action you can take. You can file a small claims assessment review case, SCAR, small claims assessment review. And at that point, you have to pay a fee. I'm being upfront with you. I don't want any surprises here. You're going to have to pay a fee, a $35 fee, once again, set by the state, not by the town. $35 fee, and you're going to probably have to have an appraisal. You're going to have to hire an appraiser at that point, because you're going to have to present your case to a hearing officer, which is typically, in Erie County, it's an attorney. You're going to have to, they're appointed by the Supreme Court administrative judge, and you present your case. The town represents their case, and whatever that hearing officer decides, both parties have to live by. This is for residential properties. both parties have to live by. If you have a commercial property, it's totally different. There's no, after you go through the Board of Assessment Review, you can't go to SCAR, Small Claims Assessment Review. You have to file an Article 7 case through the Supreme Court. At that point, you have to hire an attorney. Most of them work on contingency. So you won't have any out-of-pocket costs initially. If it goes to court, you're going to have an appraisal fee. You're going to have to pay for that. And then, they usually get 50% of the first year's tax savings. So you get 100% the second year and everything going forward. They're going to get the first year tax savings. And that's where we go from there. Okay. Now, after you get your notice next week, okay, and you think that Eminger screwed up and he doesn't know what he's talking about, and there are 8,900 parcels on this town. I can guarantee, I promise you one thing: we made mistakes with some people's properties. Okay, that's what the informal process is for. Okay, we made mistakes. So you schedule an appointment for the informal hearing. Okay, the appointments are going to be the call for your appointment between March 4th and March 14th. And that's the number you're going to call, 559-1712. That's going to be in the mailing you get next week. It's also going to be in that packet that you're going to get the mailing. That's the number that's going to go, and they'll set up, there's going to be a list of times and dates that you can go for. There's going to be days, evenings, Saturdays, and you can schedule your appointment accordingly. Okay, so what do you need to do when you're challenging your property again? You want to get comparable sales. There's going to be books available in the library, in the assessor's office. We're going to put that online. I don't think we have it. Can you use ORS? Do you use ORS?
Yes, I use ORS.
Yeah, you can use ORS. You can go to the assessor's page
You can make your own comparisons.
and make your own comparables. Okay, there'll be books in the libraries, and get sales of similar style homes in the same neighborhood. Don't go to different neighborhoods. Try to get as similar in size and similar in age as you can. You're going to have to be an arm's length ballot sale in the last 4 years. Make sure your property inventory, like I said earlier, is correct. That's a key factor. Okay, make sure we got everything correct. Okay, your house is off by 200 square feet. Okay, and and the sale price for a square foot is $100 a square foot. That's $20,000. So 200 square feet doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot when you start looking at what the homes are selling for on a per square foot basis. Okay, go on. Okay, in your packet, this is a. I hope it's here. The last page of your packet, if you open it up, this is what your disclosure notice is going to look like. All right, it's exactly, because this is from this year's roll. Okay, this is somebody's property right now in Grand Island. I think we got rid of all the identification factors, the SPL numbers, so nobody will be able to tell whose property it is. Okay, this is exactly what it's going to look like. And what happened in this case? The assessment in 2015, last year, was $189,000. In 2016, it went up $9,000. It went to $198,000. The net change was $9,000. The information below that those figures there, that's a hypothetical estimate on what you would have paid, what this individual would have paid in taxes with the new assessment, that $198,000 figure, using last year's tax levy. The budget, the tax levy for the town, or any town, hasn't been set yet. That won't be set till November. That's when the town board votes on it. Okay, so we can't guesstimate what the levy, so you gotta go back, you gotta use last year's levy. And in this case, kind of rehashing what I talked about earlier, the assessment went up. The levy stayed the same, we're assuming, because we don't know what the taxes went down, $127. The estimate for this individual will go down. Okay. Now let's say, for example, with this individual can still schedule an informal hearing. Even he sees his taxes going down, that's all right, but maybe he thinks his property is still only worth $189,000. By all means, go in. At this point, you go in and check the sales. Don't call for an informal without really checking for sales. Have to have some background. If you want to call for it, and then you go do your research, and all of a sudden you realize, well, dude, it really looks like you are getting it from house, please call and cancel your appointment if you do that, so someone else can fill that time slot. But this is a good sheet for you to keep handy, because it is exactly what you're gonna see next week.
Excuse me, I
Yep.
got a question for you. If, I do simple math. So if it was county tax was 189,000 assessed value, well, let's say the county tax was $25 a thousand, whatever, okay? And use that same $25 per thousand at 198, the number would be higher, not lower.
It's recalculated
Yeah,
by the total assessment of the town.
yes.
The tax
Okay.
rate, right, the
It's
tax
a-
rate changes.
I understand the tax rate change.
Because you're-
I'm
Because
just going by
what isn't
was
shown on
said,
here
so
is the
that's
total
the
taxable
question
assessment of the
That he
town
was using.
for both years, and that's what they're equating it to. Okay, what's missing on this, is the total taxable valuation of the town for both years isn't equated. The total taxable value of the town of Grand Island went up, 120 million?
I don't know.
Okay, it went up something, I think it went up something, it went up a fairly sizable number, okay? That's why the taxes were able to go down. The assessment, yes, the assessment went up, but the total taxable valuation of the town went up at a higher rate, went up more.
So
That's why
that
we're able to
decreased
get.
the number that was,
What that?
and so that decreased the amount of money charged for the
years.
year. I'm just doing what you said.
The tax rate went down because of that, because your total taxable assessment in the town went up.
Based on prior year's tax rate.
I'm fine, so what you're doing is you're using the assumption that everything went up. Since everything went up, that makes a bigger end number, so that changes the number of the assessment, and that's how you came up with a smaller number for the second.
For the tax rate.
Okay.
What is the total roughly?
The total value of the town, I can go downstairs and run a report, it's not in my head.
Yes?
I don't think I got it.
What's the tax rate per thousand right there?
$28 per thousand.
For the town only.
I've got that at my desk, if you'd like.
I think I know where he's going. Same thing in my neighborhood. I moved in there 10 years ago, and they had 50 homes in the last 10 years. Why would the tax rate go up when you have 50 more homes contributing to the pot of money? And your services didn't change.
Why would the tax rate go up?
Yeah.
Because the cost of, the tax levy went up, that's
Why
why.
would it when you got 50
Well,
more
the
homes in my
government,
neighborhood
the
alone?
government, the school tax, you know, the school
$25
tax,
million.
the school budget and the town budgets have gone up.
Not like those numbers, not like those numbers.
It's simple math.
That is simple math, and I'm going past it.
Okay. All
Look at
right.
my neighborhood. The mailman still came down to my house, whether I had 2 houses or 50 houses. Snowplow still came down to my street, whether I had 2 houses or 50 houses.
Government costs have gone up. Wages have gone up, health insurance, I mean, everybody's read it in the paper. Health insurance has gone up.
How many new bills are on the island in the last 5 years? New bills.
We probably average, I think that's a safe average, to say 46.
I was gonna say
per year.
50.
46 homes more in 5 years?
No, per year, per year.
200
Per
homes.
year. Yep.
And let's say the average tax is $6,000. Look at that number. Now, you mean tell me that your costs have gone up that much in the town?
Okay, that is not a question
I'm
for
looking
the
at all the
assessor.
total picture.
That's
All
not,
the money that's put
you're
in.
talking about taxes now.
You're right. That whole money
Okay,
went
taxes
in that
for this is a valuation, you know, what my
Understand
company
that.
is hired to do and what the assessor is hired to do, or, you know, what her job is to put fair market values on your property. If you have a problem with the fair market value on your property, you talk to us. If you have a problem with your taxes, you gotta go to your school board and your town board and your county legislature. They control your
I'm
taxes.
just thinking, looking at the budget, that they need of X amount of dollars to satisfy the budget. And they said, okay, let's say we need $100 million. And they said, we got $100 million and 13 from all the property owners in the town. But now in 2014, we need 120 million, but we got 60 more homes. Well, that extra money, where's that going to? That should be lowering the price of that tax rate down.
If the cost of government is not going up, you would be right.
You would think with the cost of government, with the way things are going now, and the way this economy is, now it should be going the other way.
They're not, but they're not, though.
Your interest
They're
rates.
not, they're not. The cost of government is going up.
You gotta do other things to control those costs.
Well, that's what you gotta talk to your school boards about and your town, the supervisor's right here, okay? You gotta talk, go to a town board meeting and discuss it. You know? Okay.
Nope, not here.
Okay, you know? No, I'm sorry, Mike, I'm sorry, Mike. I got carried away. I got carried away. Yeah, from your lips, my lips, I got yours? No, don't tell Nate that, don't tell Nate that.
It's not like it's the city of Buffalo, where the city of Buffalo loses tax revenue because they don't have the number of homes that they had 10, 20 years ago. But their tax rates haven't been up as much as ours, percent-wise.
Don't compare the city of Buffalo to, because they get state aid that local towns don't get. Don't, no.
The one thing I can say is
Okay.
that bucket,
Yeah,
which is the levy, which is independent of assessment
Yep.
and or the number of houses built, whatever. We have, stayed under or at the 2% tax cap. So if you look at it, if you want to know how much, we probably be pretty close to being at the tax cap, so the limit. For example, last year, the tax cap was not, people say it's a 2% tax cap, but it's either 2% or the rate of inflation. So your tax increase over the last budget year was actually 0.73%, which was the rate of inflation. The tax cap last year, or for this budget year, was 0.73.
and for this coming year, for the school board and for the villages, because they have different fiscal years, it's already been determined that the tax cap is gonna be 0.12%.
Right, so there will be essentially no increase. If we stay under the cap, we cannot, essentially, we can't raise taxes. And that's, and to be clear, when we say raise taxes, it's really the levy that would be increased by 0.12%. And then that entire dollar value is then spread over every single one of the dollars for the values of the houses. And that's why you can say that this pot is independent of the dollar value. So no matter what the dollar value of the houses are, you know, if it's here or here, the same amount of dollars have to go per dollar across the rest of the values of the houses. So really the levy is looked at independently, and that's what the state law is based on for the 0.12 this coming year.
0.12, and I think for towns, it's gonna be less than that. I think it's gonna be, that number will be determined probably in May or June, and it's gonna be 0.12% or lower, in my opinion. Okay, part of the problem is, one of the revenues that all municipalities share in Erie County is sales tax revenue. You know, you might read about that, okay? All municipalities are gonna be hit this year with lower sales tax revenue because the price of gasoline has come down, so everybody loves paying $1.80, $1.85 for gas. But one of the good things from a municipality standpoint is they got that increased revenue from the sales tax. And so sales tax are running a little bit below what they were at this point, you know, last year, still early in the year, you know, you gotta realize, but it is running, you know, below last year's figures.
And also the Canadian dollar.
Canadian dollar, people, you know, coming over
They
here.
should have a surplus based on that factor alone.
Oh, no,
So
so there's more of us going over there because our dollar is so
now,
strong.
but the last 2 years, they were all flocking over here.
And that was, we were getting more sales tax.
So you should have surplus because
We're getting sales
of
tax. Okay? Well,
What is the purpose of going from the 63%
I already showed
of the tax rate of being assessed value to 100%? I mean, what was the sole purpose of
Going
that?
from 47 to 100
No,
back in
63%.
2013? What's that?
No,
It was 63 or
it was
47.
63 14 years ago when they started.
It was 47%.
Why do they like that? It's needed the way it was.
Why? Because it gets back to the question of fair and equitable. There were inequities in the roll. There were people paying too much or too little. It had nothing to do with taxes. It had to do with people they were assessed too little, and to go to those properties, they were on the waterfront. Back, you know, those properties on the water, there were a lot of waterfront properties that were underassessed 40 years ago. Okay? We had relatively few objections from the people on the waterfront. They knew they were under. People know, you know if you're underassessed by a lot. And the people know. They're not going to come in and complain or grieve their assessment. They got away with it for 10, 15 years. It's a, you know, congratulations, you got away with it. But that's why you do a project like this. So you're being fair to your other residents. The people on the inland who live not on the waterfront, they were subsidizing the people on the waterfront. That's not fair. That's why you do the project. Yes, sir.
Speaking of waterfront, you made a comment that waterfront versus water view.
Yep.
I actually sent you an analysis back in 13 showing that there's substantial, that back even then, there's substantial difference between true waterfront, landside waterfront, and canal side waterfront. Very, very different, you know, if you look at comparable sales. You know, and you can see that recently with some of these sales where people paid $440,000, $500,000, $600,000 for a house and then knocked it down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the value of land on that side versus, whereas the 2013, the value of the land was constant, whether you were, you know, landside waterfront, waterfront, or canal side waterfront, I think. It was all the same. It was all just dependent on how wide your property was.
We also just had a sale on the land side of East River, 400,000 without any water at all.
Yeah, but you look at that, you know that's way over. When I saw that, it's like, they had
Well, the
to
house
be
is beautiful.
smoking.
The house,
Are you talking the one just up the road from me?
Judy?
yeah, it could be brick,
It's all
brick
pieced
colonial.
together, it's one of those ones pieced
No, I'm
together.
talking about brick
Erica,
colonial.
whatever.
I forget the name.
One sale does not make the market either.
Right.
That's why we use
Yeah, that's
five
right.
sales.
Judy, what did you do with that house that was overbought? Did you lower the assessment?
I don't, we are in an agreement with the state right now. We're doing a reassessment every 4 years, anywhere between every year to every 5 years, actually. I do not change anybody's assessment in between, nothing, unless they add square footage or take something away.
You know, you made a comment that the bedrooms don't count, things like that. What about other things? I mean, when you look at your individual assessments, you see things like there's a shed. I mean, you don't count a shed, do you?
Well, it's part of the inventory. It's
Okay.
part of the entire package. They don't, this is a very, I apologize for saying this, it's very impersonal, what Joe does, what his firm does. It's not one-on-one, that's why he encourages the informals.
Okay.
Because we're looking at, from the outside, comparable sales. We're not looking at what people, a comparable sale, that inside of the house might be very dated and never been upgraded. Come in for the informal, let Joe see pictures of that.
We make it a point not to know. We don't look at names, even though the names are on the valuation. We make a point. I don't know
He doesn't
where
want
the
any
elected
board member.
officials live. I don't care where they live. We treat everybody. That's God's honest truth. I don't know where anybody lives, and we look at it very objectively. And sometimes the elected officials get very upset with us, but you know we are fair and unbiased. We treat everybody the same. Yes, sir.
So after this assessment, we should expect another one no later than 5 years from now?
Yep,
Yep.
that's our goal.
Yeah, when that went through the.
How is the full market value on the tax bill calculated?
The market value, the tax, the whole town, or
No,
your
my
property? Well,
property.
based on this reassessment project, whatever,
Mine has gone up over $10,000 since 2013.
you might,
Your
must
fair
have,
market value,
your fair market,
That's what I said.
but your assessment did not. Your taxes.
your
were based on
equalization rate, the
assessment.
equalization rate is 0.96?
96.
The
96,
question
the
is,
equalization rate went down.
what is the full market value?
It's that equalized value, you take your assessment divided by that equals that 0.96, and that'll give you your equalized market value.
So it's a phantom number there.
It's a number that is, the equalization rate is given
It
by the
is.
state.
It has nothing to do with the full market value.
No, it's the state, it's the opinion of the state that based on the sale, they do a sample. Much like we do, they do a much smaller sample every year. They look at the sales and they see what the market is doing. They take the sale price on all the selected valid parcels and they equate that to the assessed value. And they see what the relationship is. The value is going up from the assessment, is it going down? In this instance, because the equalization rate is now at 96%, they're saying that property values went up 4% from the previous year. Or whenever it was at 100, it was 100% the year before that.
Yes.
So that's how it's arrived at. Yes, sir.
Your firm only does residential properties? that
No,
you
we did commercial, we did every property on the island, commercial and industrial as well.
I see. And when you speak of, you do, there's no personalized type situation, but when you're assessing these properties and you come up and you say that a person has a machine shop on their property and in reality is an 8x10 shed, and then someone tells you that they looked at it from a satellite someplace and determined that it was a machine shop, how do you justify that?
I don't know. I don't know if that happened the last time we did this. I wouldn't think it would have, because I don't think we did a lot of spectrometry.
I wouldn't have thought it did either, but then
Yeah,
again,
I don't-
when you look at the comparable properties, and one of the comparable properties has 8 acres of land, and you have a piece of property that's 185 by 205, it's interesting that you can say that you're comparing those properties.
Well, when you get to commercial properties, it's a lot different than appraising residential properties.
Right,
as
but
you
these
can
were
imagine.
residential.
This is a residential property?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it was a property with 8 acres
Okay.
as opposed to a property with 85 by
Right,
205.
it was, yeah.
But those were comparative properties the last time they did it.
My guess, and I'm just guessing here, okay, is that the square footage of the home was probably a little bit larger. It wasn't a 1,500 square foot home. I'm guessing here, okay?
I understand.
Okay, so if it's a larger home, it takes all these things into account. It adjusts for that difference in the land area. It does get adjusted for in our model. Okay, it's a
But what was-
perfect, you're not gonna find two houses on the same lot that sell.
But what was interesting is the one property that was compared was a 2-story property as opposed to your property with a raised bedroom. Now, that doesn't seem quite comparative.
I agree with you, and when that happens, you come to the informal hearing. That's what it's all about, okay?
It isn't that inventory.
If you have a ranch-style home and there's a second-story addition over part of the house, not a full story, that's classified in assessment terms as a, quote, other-style home. It's not a ranch, not a colonial, obviously. It's called other style. There aren't a lot of other style homes. I live in another style home. They're not a lot of sales of it. So the contractor, the firm, has to either go with ranch style homes, which are typically higher. Ranch style homes typically sell for a higher price per square foot, or they'll go with maybe a Cape Cod style home, or they might go to an older colonial home. But it should be adjusted. I agree there should be an adjustment on those when those things happen. And if that happens to you, if you have that style home and you don't feel that it's being reflected in the model, or your land area isn't being reflected in the model, after you see the sales that we're using, come in and see us.
Between the last reassessment and this one, was every single home looked at?
Yes. We did not measure. The last reassessment project, we did a lot of measuring because the inventory was bad 5 years ago. This time we didn't do that. We did drive-by of everything, and we used pictometry more. We didn't use pictometry more, that's because it's more prevalent. Okay, here are the myths, okay, assessors raise values, okay, the myth that the town, this project is not about raising money for the town coffers, because the pie is still the same pie. As Mike said earlier, okay, the tax cap controls that. It controls the spending of the government. So it's just a redistribution of the pie. It gets back to what I started with. You have people who are paying too much and too little. You want everybody having the same piece of paying their fair share of the pie at the end. Okay, your tax rates should go down a little bit. It's not going to go down as much as obviously as it did 4 years ago, because you were at 46% 4 years ago, and now you're at 96% this year. So you're not going to see the drastic drop in the tax rate, but it should go down slightly, and it did. I know, I saw the numbers. It did.
And just so you know, our town tax rate is about $3.20 per thousand. So the town board's doing pretty good.
Okay. Again, the assessor does not set your property taxes. The assessor's in charge of putting market value in a home. Okay. The assessor is the only responsible for placing fair market value on every property. So if you have a problem with your property valuation, you talk to your assessor. If you have a problem with your taxes, you talk to the town board or your school board. Okay? These are just some closing things. We talked about this, all this stuff again. These are the dates again. Valuation date, we value your home as of July 1st of last year. Taxable status date is March 1st of this year. It's a wacky thing, but.
What range of sales?
If you're going to tear a garage down, if you're thinking about doing it, do it before Tuesday.
Yes,
Yeah.
or do it by 5 o'clock on Tuesday.
By 5, okay, you have to, okay, March
Wednesday
1st,
morning
what
is
your
over.
property is next Tuesday is what you're gonna be assessed at,
That's right.
okay? If you take that garage down on March 2nd, you're out of luck.
God forbid you have a fire on March 2nd.
And if you have a
full
fire,
assessment for the whole year.
you
and
gotta
nothing I can
pay
do
a
about
tax
it.
on it, okay? The exemption date, it's another P date for the seniors. The seniors, make sure all your information is in the assessor's office by next Tuesday at the latest, by Monday, the end of business on Monday. Or can you take it Tuesday?
Do what on
The
Tuesday?
exemptions?
Yes.
Okay.
Close
That's
business
the
on
end of the day.
Tuesday.
Close the day, okay. Tentative roll, we filed on May 1st. Grievance day again is the 4th Tuesday in May 24th this year. And the final roll, after we go through the informal hearings, the Board of Assessment review, and the SCAR's done by July?
No,
Or they're done afterwards.
Scar's happening in August.
Yeah, is July 1st. Okay? And that's it, that's the last slide. Okay, so that's the number. If you have any questions, that's the number. It's the same number as 4 years ago. That number goes right to my desk. Okay? Call that number if you have questions. If you get your notice, you have a question, from tomorrow on. You don't have to wait for your notice next week to come out. Any questions you have about tonight, about something that wasn't explained properly? I know I probably didn't explain correctly to some things. Call me up. I'll be glad to talk to you and explain to you what the process of what it is going forward. You can talk to me up till May 1st. You can call that number anytime. Okay? Sure.
Find out what 5 properties we were compared to.
Well, yeah, we will be at the 5 properties that are used. You will see that on the informal. If you call for it, we will email it over to you, or we can, yeah. Yes, we can show you. We'll show, but you can get it ahead of time. Well, you notify us.
The valuation is July 1st of the previous year.
And
And what sales are you going to use?
We use sales up till December. Up to December of last year, we used the sales. Our market is not like going up, any sale that occurred after July 1st, it gets adjusted. It gets adjusted based on the factor we used annually. If we said it was going up 2% a year, those 3 months that it sold after the sale, it would be adjusted downward.
No, but
To take it,
for comparables, you use a period of what?
4 years.
4 years?
4 years.
And where's that from?
From July 1st of, that's a tax, because it's
Okay.
taxable status date. July 1st of 2013, I believe it
13,
was.
14, 15. I think it was
Yeah,
13, 14,
and 60,
15.
and 50, 13, 14, and 50. Correct, so it was 3 years, 3 years worth of sales. July 1st of 13 till December, roughly December 1st of 15. Okay, yes, sir.
You guys said that there's 10 neighborhoods on Grand Island. How do you know what neighborhood you're in? Is that-
That'll be in the book, that'll be in the
It's
book.
in my computer, you can call me, I can tell you what number. It's just a number. It's just the.
They'll say like 104, 101, just a.
I don't even know what the lines for that is. What-
Those maps are in the assessor's office?
We had them made for the first project, and I think probably.
Okay, yeah.
I thought maybe that, because I had sent to the library a few weeks ago, and it says, had all these names, and I didn't know it would be by the SBL number or.
The sale books that Joe's gonna have go by neighborhood number.
They are.
And that'll be all the streets that we put into your neighborhood. That's probably the best example.
And that, we won't have access to that till.
Probably not.
Mike's got to get going.
So you have a map of all the different neighborhoods? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we did, I put it somewhere. The
Could you
neighborhood
put
books,
it online, and it would probably make it easier for people to do the comparables?
We can look at certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, that just makes it, I'm just trying to.
That's a good thought.
Yes, ma'am.
I can do
But you'll do it.
Yes.
Well, I want to hear, I don't want to hear the thought thing. I hear lots of thoughts.
Yeah.
I want action.
Yeah.
Talking to your head there.
Ma'am?
In the past, when I've gone to the books and they show you how many square feet are in your property, and I know what neighborhood I'm in. There are about 80 houses that were all built at the same time by the federal government. They're all the same size unless they've been modified since their
Okay.
original build. Mine has not been modified, but for some reason in the past, I have more square feet than all the other ones that have not been modified. So I know, before I even get this paper, I have an issue,
Okay, all right.
okay? And it's
You've
not even
come
gonna
in,
say on
you've come in, and you came in 3-4 years ago, at the informal, and you,
No?
okay, well, that's why it hasn't been changed.
We set out a data mailer before we did the first project. And we,
I did come in, but they didn't rectify the problem.
Okay, they
But
didn't
now
change
we're in the
square
middle of
footage.
assessment, this is the chance to do that. But did you just say you measured all the houses?
No, no.
So this problem will still be there, because I've seen it in the past.
Well, if it was there last year, it'll be this year,
It
it'll
was
be
there
there
a
this
few
year.
years ago.
Okay, so
So
I would,
then
what
it-
I suggest you, what I suggest you do, okay,
Mhm.
is call me up on that number.
Yeah, because
Okay.
it won't be that you failed.
Well, and
it's
we'll
that
see
you
what
were given
actually is there.
faulty information by the town.
We'll see what's there.
Because
I
I
can
definitely
pull it up
don't
on my
have any
computer at my
additions.
desk.
My house is exactly as it was built,
Okay.
like all the other houses. And so it should not have more square feet than other non-modified houses built at
We
the
will,
same time.
what we typically do in those instances, okay, when there's a square footage issue, okay, we send one of our people out to measure up the house.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
and we just verify it, and then we make the change, and then we do a new evaluation document, and we're done with it. And the valuation, I'm assuming it's gonna go lower, because your square footage is lower.
Than what they're reporting.
Yeah,
how much lower?
I can't remember, it's been a few years since I looked at it. I was busy at the time of the last assessment of the old, the budget. Yeah, I have a survey, I'll bring that in.
perfect.
Yeah.
If you can email it to us, or mail it to us, or give it to the assessor.
And I mean, I've done no additions, there's no
Okay.
improvement to the basement, I didn't add an second
Yep.
exit to make an additional living space down there. I'm not using my attic like one of them are for living space,
Okay,
so,
we'll take care of you, I mean, check.
Don't knock it down Tuesday or Monday, and I knock it down the following week.
Yep.
Would I have a revaluation
No.
opportunity, or that valuation's good?
For a year, it's good for a year.
For
The
4
following
years.
year.
Oh,
No,
I mean the
it's
following,
for the
July
year.
1st.
Following year, it'll be adjusted.
It will be.
It will be.
Okay.
Yes, it will be. Yes, good question. Yeah, you're not stuck. The assessor does make changes to inventory when things get demolished, if there's fires, and the valuations, are adjusted every year. She modifies them.
Judy, did you say these meetings weren't valid or were valid, this library?
At the library, no, we just have to pick another spot. We do have, we could do,
Okay, for the information, okay.
Plan on-
So the
plan on
last slide that's on your paper, just scratch that off. At least where the location. We'll put something on the website that'll take care of that.
yeah, because those are good.
Those are the dates and times, it's just the location is gonna be there. And if you have a question about the date or where it's gonna be, call me up on the phone, or call Judy up on the phone.
And I'll be there for those information also, and it'll be Joe or somebody else, and we'll go over the stuff, and if you've got a good idea, we'll make it happen.
So, like I said, next week is, you'll be getting your notices. Just be reasonable on what you think your property is worth. And if you have any objections, or just schedule an informal hearing, and we'll have a discussion about your property. Yes, ma'am?
What's your definition of a Cape style
Cape
home?
Cod, 1.5 style, 1.75 style, it's a one story and not a full 2-story, covering most of the second floor, as opposed to this gentleman in the back behind you, who had a 1-story, and myself, who has a 1-story house, and the second story isn't a cape, it's a full second, I have a full second story on part of my house, just not on the entire house.
That's what I have.
Yeah, that's another
The
style.
only thing that's
That's
up
other
there is a
style.
bedroom.
What's that?
The only
I
thing
got
that's up there is a
two bedrooms
bedroom.
upstairs, that's it, yeah, and a bath.
So that's considered other style.
Well,
not
another
a
style,
Cape.
won't be, yeah, it's considered another style, but it won't be valued to other style, because there aren't sales, there aren't enough sales of those other style homes in any town.
So it would be distinguished as a Cape, that's how.
So
it
you
would be
wanna,
on
you
the-
wanna make sure your valuation document, I guess, if it goes up a lot, I guess, that you wanna make sure your valuation document is not, I would say, is not using ranches. because that's gonna give you a higher value per square footage, per square foot. Okay, yep.
Is it true if an ex buys out their ex-spouse's half of their building, that that's not considered a healthy sale?
Correct. We don't take half that price and multiply it by 2 and say that's the market value. Because there could be reasons that we don't know, what's involved in that transaction. Okay? All right, everyone, I appreciate the good turnout tonight. If you have questions, give me a call. Schedule your informal if you're not satisfied with your new preliminary assessment that you're gonna get next week. And hopefully I'll see some of you at the informal process. But I think it's important that you meet with us if you think you're not being treated fairly. Okay? Thanks, everyone.